So measuring distance on a number line can be done in two ways, okay? We could do it simply by counting. If we count from one point to the next across the number line, that would be one way that we could find the distance. And the other way is subtraction, okay? The thing we have to remember, though, is that distance should always be measured as a positive. So regardless of which way we count or how we subtract, we want to write the answer then as a positive. So really, it's the absolute value, and that's why that's included here. Remember, the absolute value is the distance from 0. It's always written as a positive. Well, we want to do the same thing here, okay? So finding the distance on a number line, if I look at something like this, I want to find the distance from S to T. And when we just list the points with no symbols written above them, we're talking about the distance. We're talking about the measurement. We could also say find this. If I had an actual line segment drawn, I could say find the measurement of ST and put a little M there for measurement of, okay? But if we do this without the symbol above, we're talking about the measurement, okay? So it's the distance from S to T, okay? And so if I look at this guy, I could simply count. But be careful, this thing's going by twos, so I got to count by two. So it'd be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 units, okay? And so I would come down here and say, oh, the distance here is 12. Okay. I could also use some subtraction. I just have to make sure that I do the positive version of that subtraction. So I could do -4 minus 8. I could subtract the values of the locations, which gives me a -12. But now I do the absolute value, make it positive. It's positive 12. Likewise, if I do it the other way, 8 minus a -4, well, that's like adding the opposite. Remember, when we subtract, we add the opposite. So that's a positive 12 as well. Okay. And so again, just make sure you do the absolute value. Make sure you make a positive version out of this thing. It doesn't matter which way you subtract as long as you make it positive. Okay. If I did U and V, once again, if I were to kind of count this up, let's see, it'd be 2, 4 from U to V. So I would say the distance is 4. Okay. And the only reason we kind of threw the subtraction here is sometimes this might be farther than we want to count. Or maybe we don't even have the number line drawn. It just says that, hey, one of these is at -100 and the other one's at +10. How far apart are they? Okay. And so it's a matter of kind of using subtraction and adding those up. So let me do the subtraction. 10 minus 14, that's a -4, but then do the absolute value, +4. Or go the other way. Okay, so subtraction also gives us the distance. We just have to do the positive version of that subtraction. We have to take the absolute value. This guy, same kind of thing. If I were to count the distance, and once again, as we look at this, maybe the distances are getting a little further than we want to count. So maybe I'll go right to subtraction on this one and say, you know what? I'm going to do -4 minus the 14. Well, that's a -18, and now I do the absolute value, so it's +18 for the distance, okay? Or maybe you always want to subtract the larger value, 14, and then the smaller value, minus the -4. That's probably the way I would do it because things will tend to come out positive more often in that way, so then it's adding the opposite. So again, that's also 18, okay? You could count by twos from S to V, but again, as we get further and further away, we want to use that subtraction instead of the counting, okay?